Hello guys, welcome back to my video. My name is Satwika, and as I promised in the last video, we will continue talking about the development of visual cortex in this video. We will learn to answer the question, how do cells in the visual cortex develop their properties? So as a newborn, presumably we had no idea of what we're seeing in the first time we born, right? But within a month, however, we began to recognize faces and crawl toward our favorite toys and etc. And the question is, how did we learn to make sense of what we saw? And we will take a look at the development of our visual cortex in this video. In the newborn mammal, including human, right, many of the normal properties of the visual system develop normally at first before birth. And then waves of spontaneous activity sweep over the developing retina. Then it's synchronizing the activity of neighboring receptors and then enabling appropriate combination of receptors to establish connection with the cells in the brain. How awesome is that? And still, when a mammalian or animal first open its eyes, cells of the visual system show patterns of activity that are little more than random noise. But watching a visual stimulus quickly will reduce the noise. So it means that visual experience after birth modifies and fine-tunes many of the connection. It means that long after the sensitive period of prolonged experience, they produces a smaller but measurable effect on the visual cortex. And the most important thing is that cortical plasticity is greatest in early life. It's true, but it will never end. It still happens until we're adult. But what happened if uncorrelated stimulation happened to our eyes? So most neurons in the human visual cortex respond to both eyes, right? By comparing the inputs from the two eyes, you achieve this stereoscopic depth perception. So stereoscopic depth perception requires the brain to detect retinal disparity. It's the discrepancy between what the left and the right eye see. But then abnormal experience can disrupt it. So each neuron in the visual cortex become responsive to one eye or the other, and few neurons respond to both. And the behavior result is poor depth perception. And children, certain children are born with strabismus or the strabismic amblyopia, also known as a lazy eye. It is a condition in which the eyes do not point in the same direction. Generally, these children attend to one eye but not to the other. And the usual treatment for the child with strabismus is to put a patch over the active eye, and this will forcing the attention to the other eyes, right? And that procedures actually works to some extent, especially if it begins early. But many children refuse to wear an eye patch for as long as they need it to, right? So in any case, the child is not learning to use both eyes at the same time. And continuing that discussion, what happened if early exposure then only limited to certain patterns? So what the researchers did to this kitten is cruel, actually. So a kitten spends its entire early sensitive period wearing goggles with horizontal lines painted on them, as you can see in this figure. And turns out nearly all its visual cortex cells become responsive only to horizontal lines. Even after months of later normal experience, the cat does not respond to vertical lines. And the question is, what happens if human infants are exposed mainly to vertical or horizontal lines instead of both equally? They also become more sensitive to the kind of line that they have seen. You might wonder how such a bizarre thing could happen, right? No parents would let an experimental subject their child to such a procedures, right? And it never happens in nature. But in fact, it probably happened to you, okay? So about 70% of all infants have astigmatism, It's a blurring of vision for lines in one direction, for example, horizontal, vertical, or one of the diagonals. It's caused by an asymmetric curvature of the eyes. And normal growth reduces the prevalence of astigmatism actually to about 10% in 4-year-old children. And you may test yourself by looking at this figure. So does the lines in one direction look darker to another? If so, rotate the page, the screen, I mean, to demonstrate that the darkness is in you, not the lines themselves. So the appearance of the line depends on their position, right? So if you now wear corrective lenses, try this demonstration with and without them. So if you see differences in the line only without your lenses, then lenses then might correct your astigmatism. All right, let's continue to the impaired infant vision and long-term consequences here. To some countries, maybe included Indonesia, a newborn with dense cataracts may have to wait years for surgery to enable vision. Yeah. So when the cataracts are finally removed, then this researcher then asked the children about their experience. Yeah. At first, these children have only a limited idea of what they are seeing. So in one study, children look at the picture of toy building blocks and another picture with 2 blocks. And the task was to point to the block in the second picture that matched the first. So the children did well on this task, indicating that they could see. Yeah. However, when the task was to fill building blocks and point to which of 2 choices was the picture of that blocks, the performance was only a little better than chance. What it means? So it means that they could see the picture, but they didn't understand them. A week later, without any special training, actually they did much better on these tasks. So within weeks, they could start recognizing faces. So with much practice, they also began to develop hand-eye coordination. They can also sing well enough to ride a bicycle, but it took like a year and a half. So, however, some aspect of vision never fully recovered in these children born with cataracts. Yeah. For example, their acuity or their ability to see detailed, they remain poor, and their motion perception and depth perception also never reach normal levels. All right, so that's all about the development of visual cortex. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you again in the next topic. Bye and take care.